said, excuse me, you don't understand where I'm at. I was all around the world, on span, cross the map. I've been laying low and now it's time to pop up, bitch, I'm back. Now I'ma run it up. Snooze on the kid that you dumb or what? You better go get your numbers up.
Well, good evening, folks out there. We are the MCU's Bleeding Edge, live, Friday night, January 17th, 2025, here to discuss the 1985 film, Fright Night. Now, don't get this confused with the remake from 2011 with Colin Farrell and Anton Yelchin and, Christopher Mintz-Plasse. This is the 1985 one, directed by the great Tom Holland. So, that's what we're talking about here tonight, folks. Don't get it confused. But anyways, we have, of course, my trusty, amazing co-host, Mr. Jeff S. TrueKnowledge, here tonight. How are we doing, Jeff?
Fabulous, sir. Good to be here.
Excellent. Good to have you here, sir. Of course, we have returning, of course, the pop culture guy himself, or time cop, as I like to call him, or, the amazing Time Lord, as he likes to call himself. Which we prefer Time Cop. It's a lot funnier. Also, one of our wonderful returning and recurring guest and now somewhat moderator, Mr. Andres, the pop culture guy. How you doing, sir?
Pretty good. Stay frosty, everyone.
Oh, yeah. Stay frosty, everyone. In case you don't understand that.
That was very 90s. Very 90s.
You got to make sure to... You got to make sure to get that frosty on, people. Go to Wendy's, get your frosty, and then you could get very frosty. But anyways,
I hope you guys know that was from Aliens. I hope you guys know that. I was kind of worried about Jeff.
Okay, good to know. Anyways, we have returning to the podcast, the Knights of Nostalgia, Mr. Drew. How are we doing tonight?
Oh, excellent. Thanks for having me.
Excellent to have you, sir. Great to have you back. Looking forward to hearing your knowledge on this film. Anyway, so like I said, this is the 1985, film called Fright Night. Great cast, I think. I really enjoyed the cast of this, from the awesome and late great, Mr. Roddy McDowall, to Chris Sarandon, William Ragsdale. We also have Amanda Bierce in it too as well. Stephen Jeffries. And like I said, it's directed by Tom Holland. Like, if you don't know who Tom Holland is, he has been around for many, many years. He has done a whole bunch of different films directing. He directed the original Child's Play. He also was also going to make a sequel to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, but never got around to doing that. He also did the 2 Stephen King adaptations of The Langoliers and Thinner as well. So those are a couple of his other films in his directing repertoire. So as you can see, he's done mostly horror films. So what other would be better than this to be a great horror comedy, Mr. Fright Night? I think that Tom Holland, he's one of the few directors in the 80s that I thought had a really interesting take on how he does his films. Definitely because Fright Night has a very interesting feel for it. It's very 80s. It's very really getting to the point. I feel it's very fast paced. So I think that his kind of directing was very keen for the 80s, and I think he did a good job. So this came out August 2nd of 1985. So it does turn 40 years old this year in August. That's crazy to think that this movie is 40 years old now. It ended up making $24.9 million at the box office on a $7 to $9.25 million budget. And I think that's pretty good. I thought, for 1985, that's a pretty decent budget, but at the same time, it actually made some money. It wasn't a huge box office disappointment. But unfortunately, it wasn't considered a huge hit fan-wise when it first came out. I remember a lot of people didn't care too much for it, and it kind of gained a cult following as years have gone on. So going around the panel, as we usually always ask, first time watch, when was it? And what was your initial thoughts on it after the first watch? And we'll start with you, Drew.
Let's see. I probably saw this film when I was in high school. Um, and I was immediately in love with it. Me being just a huge fan of just vampire lore in general. It's just like you said, it's a very just tight script with the direction and the music and the editing. It all works out so well. There's no filler, there's no fluff. Each scene leads right into the next scene. We get a pretty nice ticking clock element to it, especially in like the second and third act. Uh, and it doesn't reinvent the wheel at all when it comes to vampire lore, but it really just utilizes everything quite nicely. It almost feels like it's like a mishmash of like the original Dracula like novel and mixed with Rear Window or Disturbia. Like it's just sort of like it mushes those two together in a really nice way. And yeah, it's I think this movie screams 80s, and it's if you're in the mood for some vampire shit during Halloween, this is a high recommend for me.
Excellent. Andres, same question, sir.
Yeah. Before we did the live, we kind of briefly discussed me and Jeff, but yeah. So for me, this is my first time seeing the film today. But anyway, before I get into it, I heard of this film, and like this is a cult classic, so I seen images from this film, so I wasn't like under a rock about this film. I'm pretty aware of this film, particularly with the cast and the director. As Cyber brought up before, the Tom Holland. He's a terrific horror director. I mean, he directed the first Child's Play, which is really good. I'd seen The Thinner, a very how you say it, average Stevie King adaptation, but has its moments, which I remember, and that would be a great live stream review for MC Bleeding Edge. But yeah, I think watching this is probably the best vampire movie I've seen in terms of the 80s. Like, I mean, nothing will top Lost Boys, and nothing will top Lost Boys. I mean, it's a great film, but this one is really cool, classic. I agree with what Knights had brought up before. It's like this mix, a modernization of the Brian Stokes Dracula story into this like almost like Alfred Hitchcock kind of premise, where the window, and I think Tom Holland does a really good job of updating it. It treats the audience very respectfully. It doesn't hold our hands. Like if you know the vampire stuff, it's like it's common knowledge, and I appreciate like this, like oh yeah, like garlic or steak, crosses is like the usual weapons, and but they do like a twist, which is really cool, and which we'll get into. Especially the cross, which we'll get into with the character of Roddy McDowell. I was surprised about that. I was like, oh, that's a really cool twist. So overall, I was so pleasantly surprised by this film. I love it. I hope I can rewatch it again for Halloween season this year. I think it's top notch from the 80s, and it definitely deserves its classic status.
Okay. Mr. Jeff, same question, sir. Your first outing and first overall thoughts.
So my first watch was today, and this evening before we came on, and I was pleasantly surprised. I really didn't set like a super high bar for the film, but it is like does have like a cult classic kind of moniker attached to it. So it definitely wraps you in the audience, the story, and like Drew said, just like the overall blend of the music, the special effects, like the non CGI, old school, like 80s, practical effect type effects that they have are really retro and like fun to see, because they're so old school, you know what I mean? But some of the actual horror stuff that they shoot is really solid. You know, I was actually kind of surprised at like how good like some of the actual vampire stuff looked and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like it looks good. You know, for 40 years old, right? So yeah, you know, the movie it looks like it broke even, it made money or whatever, you know. I mean, I couldn't imagine a premise like this really working, like, you know, nowadays really in film, but for the 80s it hits, and it's definitely like an 80s film. It's got all of like the typical like 80s tropes that you could want are all there, you know, like you know, corded phones, you know, like, you know, 80s architecture, like 80s houses, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, like you know, it's all there. So yeah, it's a good watch. You know, definitely kept my attention, and you know, I thought it was a very entertaining, yet somewhat scary 80s, you know, classic horror film, basically, I guess. You know, very enjoyable. I like I said, I was pleasantly surprised.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. So basically, if you're not familiar with Fright Night, it is considered a supernatural horror film, which it has comedy elements, which I don't know why it's not considered a horror comedy, but it's just considered a supernatural horror film. It was written and directed by Tom Holland. Like I said, this was his directorial debut. And like I said, great cast. Came out August, did pretty good. There was actually a sequel that came out 3 years later in '88 called Fright Night Part 2. And it was not done by, pretty much had a different cast and stuff like that. It was directed by a different person and stuff like that. So, but still was a pretty decent film. So if you like this Fright Night, definitely should check out that sequel. It's actually pretty funny, just as kind of funny as this. So getting into the film, we start off with 17-year-old Charlie Brewster. He is a fan of a late-night horror television program called Fright Night, hosted by former movie vampire hunter Peter Vincent. One evening, Charlie discovers that his new next-door neighbor, Jerry Dandridge, is a vampire responsible for the disappearance of several victims. After telling his mother, Charlie asks his girlfriend, Amy Peterson, and his friend, Evil Ed Thompson, for help before contacting the authorities. So we'll stop there. So basically, you know, kind of in this circumference, we get kind of that beginning makeout session that they're trying to do up in his room, which really fails horribly and is pretty pathetic. And, you know, they got the TV going on in the background, and then as time goes on, he starts to notice things across the way. He's kind of keeping an eye on it. And that's when he notices Jerry, the new neighbor, and his person seeing bodies being moved or giant bags being moved. And basically ends up at one point, he's looking over there with binoculars and ends up seeing, you know, the neighbor basically biting to the neck of this woman who is topless. Who is played by a Playboy Playmate that was from 1981, who ends up being Heidi Sorensen. That's who that is. And basically after that, that's when he tells his mother, and she's just kind of like, oh, you're being silly, Charlie. Oh. And then he basically tries to tell his girlfriend and his friend, and they kind of are like, well, you know, maybe you should, you know, if you thought you saw something, maybe you should contact the authorities. And so basically that's where we're at. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on that beginning, your introduction to Charlie, the introduction to his girlfriend, the introduction to his mom, Evil Ed, and Jerry Dandridge himself, Chris Sarandon. What are you guys' thoughts on that? And then, of course, we all know Jeff is probably going to comment about the Playboy Playmate. That's okay. So anyways, starting with you, Jeff, your thoughts on that section leading up to before the cops go for their first call from Charlie.
Well, the intro is super 80s, like, to the core, like right from jump. And they do a good job overall with the whole love story with Charlie and Amy throughout the film. They're good, like I enjoyed them throughout the film, and they're good, like, right from the intro. I don't know what was up with it. Like, I mean, dude had a chance to hit it, like, like she was down to fuck, and like, and he passed up on it, like, like that was, I don't know what he was thinking with that. Like, he really messed up. I would have jumped on that personally, because that, that chick that played Amy was pretty hot. But that's just me. As far as the whole premise is really, it's set up really easily, and it works really well. Just the whole premise of the next door, the new next door neighbor, and looking out the window and seeing the coffins and all that, seeing the the bags or whatever with the bodies or whatever. It's all very like conceivable, and it all comes together very quickly. Like it works well. And like you can see why, why Charlie's obviously like highly concerned, right? The introduction of like the vampire character, Jerry, I guess, or whatever. I don't know, he's an interesting character, like he's he definitely, right from jump, he's kind of intriguing, besides that, I like the mom. The mom is really good. Charlie's mom is really solid. You see her a lot in the beginning, she's pretty solid. I like her. Besides that, I'm trying to think what else there really would be to talk about during that section. It's really just a building up at that point, really, with the intro, and then before he actually reaches out, and gets assistance with and all that. I guess that's kind of where we're off. So I'll stop there. Really good intro. I really like the actor that plays Charlie. Obviously he didn't really do anything, beyond this that I know of, but he was pretty solid in this film.
Excellent. Yep. Williams Ragdale's, yes, he's a fun actor. He had a lot of great films in the 80s that were enjoyable, and he had a very very strong 80s, and then he kind of went into smaller roles as the 90s rolled in. And he's just a really good character actor, and he's fun to watch. So I always enjoyed him in this film. All right, going over to you, Drew. Your thoughts, sir, on this section up to before the cops are called for the first time.
Well, it's a pretty solid opening act of a film. We get all of our main characters. We sort of get like a little dive into their psychology and whatnot. Charlie himself, Mr. Ragsdale. I really don't remember him from anything else but this movie. I think he does a pretty great job as that just sort of heroic type. He is a hero, because there's a point in the series where he is sort of given an offer to just let it go, but he chooses to try and end it, and he does the heroic thing and tries to stop the slaying. But he's a pretty good hero. My only sort of grief with it is he's just a little too old to be playing this like teenage. I mean, I know this is a thing in the 80s, but like I really wish it really would have been like a 15, 16-year-old kid instead of like a, I don't know, 25, 26-year-old playing. Like, he just looked too old to be like, oh my God, Mom, there's a vampire next door. Like it just doesn't register in that believability, like with that at that age. Really, really adore Amanda Burse in this. I think she plays the sort of like, AKA Marcy Darcy. Just that like sort of innocence, and also representing sort of the vampires sort of lusting in near the third act. Another parallel to Dracula. The idea of like that, oh, I'm trying to get my ancient bride back. And Chris Sarandon, man, he's such a great vampire. He does a really good contrast of being this sort of like smooth talking, very calm, cool, and collected to flipping and becoming monstrous and very, very intimidating. And sometimes even when he's being cool and collected, he sort of pulls off intimidating. Sort of reminds me a little like Tywin Lannister back in the day, just that controls the scene in every movie or in every scene he's in. He does a really wonderful job in this. He was great in Child's Play as well as the detective, and of course Prince Humperdinck and Princess Bride. So I think he's probably one of my favorite vampires of all time. That's not just like a dumb monster. I would say. And Roddy McDowall, of course, too. When we get into him, I really adore his performance in this. And like I said, it's a pretty fun subversion with his sort of character trope in this. But yeah, we set everything up nicely, and pretty quickly we get our ticking clock element with Jerry and Charlie. So it's a fun ride once that starts.
Most certainly. Thank you. Time Cop, your thoughts, sir, on that section leading up to when the cops are about to be called to go over and ask about Jerry.
Okay. Yeah. I agree with a bunch of the hosts here. It's a great first act. I think it really does a really good job of setting up the characters and the arcs we're going to see in the film. Setting up, what really helps it for this film, why it just is so great, is the atmosphere and the tone. Like, one of the things that's very important for horror is like how dark or how violent, what kind of horror movie we're getting into. And especially for a vampire movie, especially the 80s, this was kind of like the midpoint where we're getting the somewhat very handsome and dashly vampires, because we were coming off from the Hammer horror of Christopher Lee, and this, I don't know, we had other horror movies that had handsome people, but I think this was the start of that before Lost Boys and Interview with the Vampire. And I think this is a really good modernization of here's this, we don't know what type of vampire. We don't get the deep lore of is he a version of Dracula? He's just a type of vampire that has the usual, whistles and tricks that we know for vampires. So I think the groundwork was really good, and I like the detail. I was looking at the tree of you see Jerry, the main antagonist, eating fruit. If it, I actually love how they did this, because if you don't know, fruit bats eat these kind of fruits, and I kind of like how here Jerry is eating fruit because he could be this type of vampire that like this type of bat that needs to eat that, and that's a really cool detail. I really like that what Tom did there. Literally he's this fruit bat. As a vampire, that's really neat. And then you got this guy. What's this guy's name? Ben, his assistant. It's similar to Renfield. From the Dracula story. You don't know either or not he's a vampire or he's just possessed, as usual with Dracula's
It's like a familiar.
Yeah. And so you're kind of wondering what's going on here, and you don't know at this time. 30 minutes into the film, it's okay, what kind of vampire is he? And is he a vampire or some sort of supernatural creature? And then you got Charlie, which I like. I like that he's this typical, down to earth kind of person, a very, relatable person that you've been through as a high school person, in your day. I do agree with Knights. It was kind of tough, but as he said before, Knights, the 80s, you didn't get the casting of the kids, teenagers in these roles now. Now you get someone that kind of okay, he still looks young, and I can believe him be a high school. Yeah, this guy still looks like a 30 person. He should be in college or something like that. Where his other two friends, was it Evil and Amy? They look like at least high schools. I somewhat believe them. But yeah, I think they did a really good job with Charlie. You know, you see his his mom, his single mom, which we don't get any confirmation if he has a dad or not, or he left or something like that. Yeah, like it's not important to the story, but it's kind of cool, to see that. The I mean, I don't want to get too far with Evil, but like, man, Evil, worst friend ever. Just had to say that. I we'll get into the other scenes, but like I don't know, this guy was so annoying. When every time he came out, I was like, he was like the Matthew. He's like the opposite of Matthew Leader from Scream. He's like the annoying one. It's like, oh my god, Charlie, oh my god, it's like, oh my god, shut up, sir. You're so annoying. You're lucky that I didn't send Ghostface to kill you or a werewolf to bite you. I thought that guy, that the character Evil, it was so annoying. Right, it's the worst friend ever. I mean, as usual with these horror movies, you always have the best friend that is literally the best character of the film, and this one is like the worst. Oh my god. So and you see the Charlie seeing through the window, like rear window, and like he's seeing the snippets of Jerry as the vampire. I love the detail of like see the fans, him starting to like suck the blood out, and then like the fingertips was really cool. Great makeup work, by the way, by this film. It's very impressive. And of course, when he gets to the house, by the cop, which is so funny. And I love the assistant. He plays around. Oh, we're vampire, and like he does the cross here, and it's like, oh my god, it was so funny. And then I like how the cop scrolls Charlie. He's like, look, man, don't waste my time. Next time you do
We're
this,
not, Andres, you're going too far, sir. We haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, that's the starting point, right? Okay.
Yeah, before the cop got there.
Oh, the verdict. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, great first act. Very excited to talk about that scene. But it does a really good job setting up the lore and the groundwork for Fright Night. And by the way, I actually like how they use the title for Fright Night. Like I like how it's from the TV show that we saw briefly in the beginning. So that is actually a cool way to integrate your title, because I know some movies do that, and sometimes it's good or bad. I think this was a good one to integrate your title in the film.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. Good job, sir. Good job. And as usual, you took us past where we wanted you to stop. Good job, Andres. Time cop.
I'm sorry.
That's
blame
how you
Evil. He's the worst character ever. I'm sorry.
Can't blame Evil. No. You do it all the time, sir. It's all you. It's all you, sir.
He's even worse than the remake.
Oh my god. I don't want to hear that. Oh god.
I like Christopher Mintz-Plasse. Anyways. Yep. All right, so moving on. So the authorities get called, and we have a detective named Lennox that comes over and goes with Charlie to Jerry's house to question him. But his roommate, Billy Cole, tells him that Jerry is away on business. Charlie reveals his suspicions about Jerry's vampirism, and Lennox leaves furious. That night, Charlie is shocked to see Jerry inside his house, having been invited by Charlie's mother. Later, Jerry visits Charlie and offers him a choice: ignore his vampiric activities or else. Charlie refuses, brandishing a crucifix at Jerry. When Jerry tries to push him out the window to his death, Charlie stabs Jerry's hand with a pencil. Jerry destroys Charlie's car in retaliation and threatens Charlie over the phone. So we'll stop there. So this is kind of the real first first act of their battle between each other. We get this great kind of banter between them. We get to see how a vampire has to be let in by somebody saying they can be invited in. We get that great, detective sequence that Andres so beautifully started off with, starting for us and talking about. And just, this whole scene really, I thought, showed some really great practical and special effects that they used in this film. And they did such a great job in this film. I love the practical effects of this film. I think they did a really good job with it. And I think that, majority of it was just really well, constructed. It looked pretty, I thought that they did a good job of editing it in very well, too. And giving us these, decent, performances along with these great kind of practical gags. So I thought they did a really good job with that. Which was interesting was Richard Edlund was the head of visual effects for the film, who he actually had worked recently on Ghostbusters, and so he got to work on Fright Night as well. And him was kind of the head of the physical effects, and I think he did a really good job. So, anyways, what do you guys think about this part? What do you guys think about this first outing at Jerry and Charlie's kind of war, or kind of their first fight? And what did you think about that leading up to Jerry, after he leaves, calling Charlie up on the phone and threatening him? So we'll start with you first this time, Time Cop.
All right. First off, apologies to everyone. No worry, I'm gonna be affected by a vampire tonight, so for my crime. But anyway, so the police arriving, the suspicions from Charlie about Jerry's vampirism was a very great scene, very funny scene. I say before, for the cutoff. I mean, I just like the film being very wink to your face about this so crazy, and you feel frustrated and with Charlie that this is the truth, and and I think I'm with Charlie here as the character, and this is where I really got hooked by the movie, was just seeing the bad guy invite himself to the hero's house, as Cyber said before, the classic vampire let me in. It's so good because the actor, Chris great actor, by the way. He is still the king of
Sarandon, sir.
Sarandon. Thank you, Chris Sarandon. The king of Halloween Town himself, Jack Skellington, is amazing actor here. He really oozes charisma, and he has this very traditional vampire, charisma that you see from both Bailey Bolus, I mean, the Richard Dracula, or interfere vampire, that type of vampire, not this Nosferatu, much more the classic vampire as we were always think about in media. And I think the actor Chris does a really good job with that, and just the way he talks to the mom is really great. And then to the overnight, of course, Chris, gets wake up, and you see Jerry invite himself there, to locking the mom's door, and he starts right away threatening Charlie to get away from his business. Is really creepy. I mean, he throws him back and forth to the room, destroying his house a little bit, which is wow, brutal. And then you see the cross not working at first. I like how they pay that off later in the film. And then, of course, he sees the picture goes down to the fence, and then of course he grabs one of the pencils and stamp him, which was really brutal. And you see the full-on makeup, which is so spectacular, very unique. This I thought was a really great creepy makeup. You see the fingers, again, but more creepier here. I really appreciate the makeup there, and I like how also in the film, you can tell when he's there is because of the foggy mist. You can tell that he's there because of the foggy mist. I think that's a really cool detail, that that your enemy is there is because of something is not right outside. So I thought this was really cool, and then of course now Charlie has to think how he can defeat this enemy. So overall, I think they did a really good job of making this character Jerry to be very threatening, which is good. And you see how powerful he is as a vampire, which is scary. But you see that also he has a weakness that's not too it's not for you to okay, I can understand how he could be hurt by this one pencil, all that, not going through the details of the cross or the stake, how is that realistically can kill the vampire. So I thought this section was really good and funny, scary at the same time, and also funny as well.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. All right. Over to you, Drew. Your thoughts, sir.
Well, the cop scene is just wonderful. I do love me some classic horror scenes where something supernatural happens to a character and they try to just overtly explain it to an officer, like it's just gonna fly. The fact, like the idea, like, oh yeah, we're just gonna find a vampire in here, and as soon as the cop even hears that word, he's like, all right, we're out of here. That happens in like Terminator. That happens in so many movies where like character is just. It's like their brain isn't even thinking like, wait, I shouldn't say this because they're obviously not going to believe me, But I do love just that beat of they do what probably a normal person would do. I'm gonna call the cops. I saw somebody get murdered. I don't know what's going on, and the stakes get raised. Jerry meets him in his house. He obviously can dispatch the mom whenever he pleases after he gets invited in. But we get that nice shot where he comes in through her window and just walks through her bedroom and then just locks her in by smashing the door or whatever. And strategy-wise, it's a pretty neat move by Jerry. He basically is just like he's throwing all his cards right at Charlie and saying like, "Look, this is not going away. I'm going to offer you a piece. You don't bother me. I don't bother you. Everything will be fine." And I would have taken that deal. I think if I was in Charlie's shoes, I'd be like, you know what? I believe you. You know what? I didn't see nothing. But Charlie decides to attack him with a cross, which just pisses him off even more. And now it's go time. Because now it's basically, we're now at a moment where it's like, okay, even if you manage to fight him off, he'll be back the next night. And will you be able to protect yourself or your mother? It's basically, you're basically giving yourself a day of planning now, at best, to deal with the situation. So it's an interesting choice by Charlie. A couple interesting line of dialogue that I've always wondered about because we never really get a follow through. But at one point, Jerry does say something like when he's holding him up, he says something to Charlie like, "I'm going to give you something I never had a choice." And I was like, "Oh, what does that mean? Like, was he born with this curse? Did he get turned at some point?" It would have been. I don't know. I've always thought it was like sort of an interesting line that they threw in there. And he almost looks really upset when Charlie tries to hit him with the cross. Like he's just like, "Oh man, like I'm giving you like a freebie here, and you're not taking it." It's sort of an interesting dive into the vampire's personality there that he just outright refuses. He's doing the protagonist thing. He's I'm the good guy. I'm gonna beat you no matter what, but I'm not gonna take your peace offering, which is a strange thing for the villain of the story to do, but it is what it is. And yeah, it's really sort of fun dealing with the rest of the movie, watching Charlie have to sort of struggle with okay, he's going to kill me and my mom at some point in the very near future. We have to get rid of him now. But yeah, I so far so good. I think these are really well balanced scenes. I will say that I love the idea of Roddy McDowall's character, this Vincent, Peter Vincent, I think is his name, the host.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, like I always had Joe Bob Briggs in TNT, Monster Vision, horror hosts. Gilbert Gottfried used to do USA Up All Night, so I kind of remember that era where you would every Saturday night you'd watch a horror host or whatever, like showcasing movies and stuff, and you would get into their characters and their fun commentary. So I always sort of like that aspect of this film.
Fright Night Theater, Whitey Jackson.
Yeah.
Another classic. Yep. He was around on channel 58 out in California, and then Joe Bob Briggs was on TNT. I never watched Joe Bob Briggs during that time. I watch him currently.
Yeah, he's back. Shudder.
Yeah,
and love him. So fantastic. I'm a part of the mutant family, so I like
that. Another thing I like about the name.
No time cop. No, you cannot talk.
Sorry.
What, sir?
No. I just the name Pierre Vincent. I really like. Also, they reference Pierre Kushner and Vincent Price. The two. The biggest horror icons, and mentioning that name for Roddy McDowall's character was really very nice and a great because like they also did that kind of thing as well to sponsor the Hammer horror films or whatever movies they were in and TV. So I kind of dug that horror connection of the horror films.
Yeah. Well, did you know that Peter Vincent, Roddy McDowall's character, was named after Vincent Price and Peter Cushing.
Oh,
That's why his name's Peter Vincent.
I was, yeah, that's cool. I love that.
They were paying homage to the Hammer films with his name, so that's something I thought that was interesting. All right, Sir Jeff, your thoughts on the sequence, sir, from when the cop goes over with Mr. Charlie to up to when Mr. Jerry calls him on the phone after their fight to threaten him.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty well done. The main vampire character Jerry or whatever is pretty well played off in that scene when he goes to Charlie's house. I don't know why he breaks the door casing or whatever the fuck he does to the mother's room or whatever. When he exits the door, he breaks the fucking door casing or some shit. I don't know why he did that. What the point of that was or whatever, but he had to do that. The whole special effects with him actually going full vampire was pretty solid. You know what I'm saying? He looked pretty damn good as a vampire. I was okay, this isn't bad. So very authentic vampire looking shit going on with the vampire. It's kind of I don't understand why he didn't just kill him if he wanted to kill him, really. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, why he was afraid of his the guy's mother or whatever. But whatever. The whole thing with the cop, I mean, it's very believable. You can't no cop's gonna believe that somebody's a vampire. You know what I'm saying? That's not gonna happen. It won't work. So, that's not really shocking. And then basically Charlie ends up with his back against the wall, because nobody believes in him, right? So now he's got Jerry going after him. Jerry sabotaged his ride. He fucked up his ride and shit, and he's threatened him over the telephone. So it's bad news for Charlie. It's not looking good. He needs help. He needs some serious help. And I love his buddy in the film. He's great. I really enjoy him. His friend there. His scenes are good. He's cool as the friend character. I like him.
Yep. So that guy that played Evil Ed, Mr. Stephen Jeffries, actually went on to be a gay porn star after he had made this film. And he's been in a few other things over the years. But really, he after he had done this movie, he ended up becoming big as a gay porn star, which I thought was hilarious. But I thought that, hey, he totally after finding that out, I remember rewatching his performance and going, yeah, he was gay. Yeah.
What did the industry to crack into the gay porn scene?
No, I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And he actually, I think what's funny is the fact that he was in that 976 Evil film in 1988 after being called Evil Ed in Fright Night 3 years earlier. So I think that's kind of funny. But he was in quite a few in the late 80s there, the mid to late 80s. He was in a whole bunch of horror films before he got into the adult film industry. But I still can't get over the whole fact. I was like, he became a gay porn star. I'm like, what?
Was he in Fright Night too?
He might have been. Yes, he was. He was asked for his prizes role in Fright Night Part 2, but he turned it down to play the lead role in 976 Evil.
Brilliant choice.
Yep. So William Ragsdale returned for Fright Night 2, and Roddy McDowall did. But yeah, I think it was funny. His alias as a porn star was Sam Ritter, which I thought was kind of funny. Sam Ritter. But anyways, okay, great job, guys. So thank you very much, everyone. Great job. All right, so getting back to the film. So after Jerry's threatening call, this is where Charlie turns to Peter Vincent and our first introduction to Mr. Roddy McDowell. He goes to him for help, but Peter dismisses Charlie as just an obsessed fan. Amy, fearing for Charlie's sanity and safety, hires the destitute Peter to prove that Jerry is not a vampire by having him drink what they claim is holy water. But it is only tap water. Jerry has claimed to Peter that drinking actual holy water will be against his religious convictions. Peter discovers Charlie is right about Jerry's true nature after glancing at his pocket mirror and noticing Jerry's lack of a reflection, causing him to accidentally drop the mirror. Peter then flees, but Jerry learns of his discovery after finding a shard of mirror glass on the floor. So we'll stop there. So what do you guys think about this sequence? The trying to prove he's a vampire by the holy water stuff, and them doing this to help Charlie out because they think he's going insane, and the introduction of Peter Vincent, Mr. Roddy McDowell. So what are you guys' thoughts on that? And I'll start with you, Jeff.
I mean, it's not like overly shocking that Charlie initially gets turned down from by Peter Vincent. It works well for the story, to kind of extend that out a little bit, you know what I mean, and interject the other characters into the mix to get them to actually get his favor, basically, right? Kind of get his back. The whole holy water scene is like, it puts Charlie in like a really weird place because he has to admit that, the guy just drank holy water, so he's not a vampire, or whatever, like right there, you know what I mean? So it's interesting. I really wasn't sure what to expect from those scenes, it adds a lot when they add in the Peter Vincent factor, it's interesting that it's through like the mirror or whatever, like the broken glass of the mirror, that like that reveals to Jerry that he knows he's a vampire now or whatever, I thought it was very interesting. Very well done.
All right. Going to you, Andreas. Your thoughts, sir.
He's not there. He's muted.
Oh. I'll be right back. My bad. Anyways, so we'll go over to Mr. Drew. And your thoughts on this scene, sir, leading up to the after that, basically Peter Vincent finally realizes that Jerry is really a vampire.
I like this sort of section quite a bit. It sort of deals with that whole like don't meet your heroes like sort of trope, because that idea of like, oh, like this guy's actually a fraud. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just sort of he's a TV personality, and he's obviously like what's that called? You're on like a pseudo, like a one-sided relationship with him, like through the TV or whatever. What's that called? I'm not gonna think about it. But like, yeah, Charlie like thinks, oh, this guy, I'm a huge fan of his. He's like all about vampire hunting, and it's sort of like a nice twist on the Van Helsing sort of archetype. If Van Helsing was a fraud, who then decided to step it up and not become a fraud no more. Like it's actually quite a wonderful like sort of take on this sort of character dynamic. The idea of like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. Oh, he doesn't. All right. Well, oh wait, now he doesn't. Oh, now he's really good. Okay. But the idea of like, okay, well, if nobody's gonna help me, I guess I have to help myself. So Charlie's friends try to like help him out and be like, hey, have you talked to Peter Vincent? Maybe we'll, let us talk to him first. And so they stage this very strange like meeting with the vampire. They even call him up ahead of time, be like, hey, do you mind if we do like weird vampire tests on you in front of Charlie? If I was the vampire in this like I'd be like, oh, this is desperation. I'm actually I'm very confused as to why he doesn't just murder them all when they show up in the house immediately, but instead he sort of he engages in it, and I guess it's really lucky for him that they do just happen to use tap water instead of holy water for the test. But either way, the whole point is to make Charlie chill. Hey, it's all in your imagination. Your neighbor's not a vampire. You're crazy. And then, of course, Peter Vincent is now proven that he himself knows about the vampire. It's almost like I don't even know why he pulls that mirror out to begin with, unless he himself was having doubts about it himself. I'm not sure. Right? He just sort of does it, and that's when he like panics and drops it and goes, "Oh fuck, I'm out of here." It's a real vampire. I don't know what I'm doing. It's almost like a comical scene. And I love the one edit where after he drinks the holy water, Charlie then like challenges him to hold the crucifix, and it immediately cuts to the familiar guy who like immediately starts charge. Like he looks like he's about to charge in and stop everything. Like oh, the cover's blown. We have to kill them all now. But then Roddy McDowell's like, no, don't be rude, Charlie. Let's get out of here. Everything's fine. It's all pretty wonderful. That familiar character, I've seen him in one other movie. It's House 2, the second story, which is a freaking fantastic movie. It's honestly one of the few times a sequel has surpassed its original. But yeah, that's the only other movie I know that guy from. But yep, the stakes are going up now. Charlie is all alone. His friends don't believe him. His hero doesn't believe him. The vampire is definitely going to kill him at nightfall, or his mom, or his friends. Who knows? But things are closing. The hammer is coming down on Charlie.
And his girlfriend wants to bang the vampire too.
Well, not yet.
She already does. She already almost kind of does now at this point.
Oh wait, did we already skip the scene where he notices the painting of his girlfriend? When was that?
That was in the
Is that in the cop scene?
Yeah, it was in the cop scene. It was like very quick.
And he's like just going through his like a box of stuff, and he finds like a painting of Amy, which I thought was weird. Like he's just going through his stuff without any like you wouldn't just go into somebody's house and just start going through their shit. It's very strange.
Very so. All right. The Bill who you were talking about, sir, Jonathan Stark. He played Charlie in House 2, the second story. He was also in a film in '87 called Project X. He was in Bright Light, Big City. He was also in Mom and Dad Save the World from 1992 as Lieutenant Destroyer. He had a voiceover role in the film Career Opportunities with Jennifer Connelly and what's his face? Why do I always forget his name? Frank Wally. He was also he did a voiceover for that film, I guess. But he actually ended up he was a writer too, and he wrote the episode. He wrote an episode for the Ellen Show back in '96. And was considered like a big, big deal. He also he created the Jim Belushi Show, According to Jim, as well, and he won an Emmy for co-writing the puppy episode of Ellen's Show that I was just talking about. So he's actually pretty prolific. Not just the hired muscle in this film. So I think that's pretty cool.
So he has like more writing credits than like acting credits, I guess, or
yes. He's more of behind the scenes versus in front of the scenes. All right. So going on to Mr. Andres, your thoughts on that section? Going to up to when Peter Vincent realizes from the mirror that Jerry doesn't have a reflection, and then Jerry finds the shard of mirrored glass on the floor.
Before that scene happens, correct?
Up to that scene.
All right. Just want to make sure. Thank you. I guess. I mean, first up, to respond to Knight's like thing of like why Jerry goes through this like basically, you know, if everyone has done this or not, the intervention with your friends, like dear Jeff, there's really something like we don't care, like we're happy for you with your massage parlor, but you need help, sir. You know, your massage parlor addiction or whatever, you know. And it's like that. It's like, dear Charlie, look, I know you love vampires and movies and girls, but this is going too far. um I heard that, yeah, like it was basically that. And but I gotta say, I think Jerry is actually the most smartest vampire ever. Like, come on, like, why do you want to exhalate, you know, this like already like crime that you're already doing with these disappearing of, you know, people that we've been like hearing in the TV during the film. So this is like killing one bird, like, you know, the phrase killing the one bird, you know, thing. It's like, okay, I will help these guys, you know, to like deflect the, you know, Charlie's you know, his belief that I'm a vampire. And the fact that they were nice, you know, they were nice to ask, you know, Jerry, like, hey, can you, you know, yeah, bring the holy water just to be a tap water. And like I thought that was so funny. It's like, wow, like so clever, you know. And so, you know, he did it. And he's you know, I think Jerry's just being very thoughtful, like, because every time a vampire gets exposed, you know, what's the next the thing they do is like, I'm gonna kill you now, I'm gonna bite you. And then it's like, why don't make it, you know, like don't make the, you know, first of all, don't track to like your crime to anyone. Like, it's better to just, you know, like try to maybe dissolve it before you have to, you know, kill this person because it's going to danger, you know. So I think Jerry was just being very smart. um I feel like the one story element that is kind of weak I saw was the whole Amy thing to be like his long lost love. I'm sorry, you have to build that up into the story. I feel like that was very like kind of convenient that the girlfriend of your hero is the one from your lost. Like I seen that with vampire movies, you know. Like, I mean, come on, like you seen the Bram Stoker's Dracula version from 1992 with Gary Oldman. It's like, at least that was more believable. This is just like, I don't know, a little too convenient. I don't think they really needed that for this film. And I just, you know, I don't know. By the way, that Amy actress is also the wife for Mary with Truman, the other neighbors. If you've seen that show,
Marcy Darcy.
But yeah, Marcy Darcy. I was like, the whole film, I was like, who is she? She looks familiar. And then I was checking just now. I was like, oh, Mary with Truman. So it's a great show. She was so funny in that show, and she's incredible. Roddy McDowell. Great actor. I love him. I mean, I grew up watching this guy. I mean, of course, he's, you know, Cornelius / Caesar in the, you know, the original 5 Planet 8 films, and of course the short-lived show. He's so fantastic. And of course he's, you know, part of the Batman franchise, you know, in the 60s show, and of course the 90s cartoon with, you know, with Count Connery and Mark Hamill as the Mad Hatter. He's such a terrific actor, and he brings the heart and like just the soul for this film. I mean, he really brings everything to this film so gratefully. Like, I totally believe him as a TV host, and I just dug his name, Peter Vincent. That's probably my favorite character name now. It's like, oh, as Cyber before, it's a great homage to Peter Kushner and Vincent Price, the two horror icons of cinema. I thought he was really great and funny. I think this section is really great. This is where the movie picks up. You really see, as you were saying for nights, the ticking time is really like kicking in, you know, after, you know, the stopping point where the glass thing happened. It's like, oh wow. I don't know. I think it's because he's a diva, you know, because he's an actor. He's like checking himself. I don't know. That's why he did the mirror thing. I mean, because he's an actor. So it was just a very contrived way to like, you know, get the stakes higher now towards like the climax of the third act, you know. But yeah, overall, it's a little flawed, but it's still a great, you know, act that I really enjoy.
Okie dokie, Artichoke. Great job, everyone. Anyways, yeah, Peter Cushing and Vincent Price, paying homage to them is a great name there when they made Peter Vincent. I agree. All right. So, getting back to the story, Jerry hunts down Ed and turns him into a vampire. Then Ed proceeds to visit Peter and tries to attack him, only to be warded off when burned by a crucifix to the forehead. Meanwhile, Jerry chases Charlie and Amy into a nightclub. While Charlie tries to call the police, Jerry hypnotizes and abducts Amy, who resembles Jerry's lost love, and bites her. With nowhere left to turn, Charlie attempts to gain Peter's help once more. A frightened Peter initially refuses, but then reluctantly resumes his vampire killer role. Entering Jerry's house, the two are able to repel Jerry using a crucifix, though only Charlie's works since he has faith in his spiritual power. Billy appears and knocks Charlie over the banister, while Peter flees to Charlie's house. There, he is surprised by Ed, who attacks him in the form of a wolf, only to be pierced through the heart with a broken table leg held by Peter. Removing the stake from Ed's body, Peter goes to rescue Charlie and battle Jerry. So we'll stop there. And we can't forget, Evil Ed's cackle, his laugh. Freaking hilarious how he did it. Always a great laugh. Always cracks me up every time I hear it. I think it's absolutely funny. And totally, I don't think anybody else could do it as well as Stephen Jeffries. But this sequence here, I just want to mention the dance club scene is fantastic because the music in this film is really done well. I really enjoy it. I think it's really fun. It's got a lot of great hits from '85. And, who else provided music for this but Brad Fiedel, who is known to have worked with James Cameron on True Lies, Terminator 2, and Terminator 1. So, I mean, one of the all-time best themes for a film for me is always Terminator 2. That music is so freaking epic. I can listen to it over and over again because it's just so moving. That it is just freaking amazing. And Brad Fiedel did a great job doing that. And I think he did the same with the music in this film as well. And especially in this, dance sequence, the music in this sequence is just so freaking good. And just brings me back to 85 and just makes me want to dance because it's just so much fun in 85. So I just had to bring that up. Brad Fiedel, great music composer. All right, guys. So going back to you, Time Cop, what are your thoughts on this section leading up to when Peter Vincent kills Ed and is about to go over and help battle Jerry?
Okay. Well, speaking of Ed, evil, still worst friend. I mean, in fact, he's still joking and teasing, Charlie. It's like, come on, dude. You want to be the best friend of this film. Support him. It's like, look, dude, I'm sorry. He's not a vampire. But he's still doing this like clown things, like, well, evil, Charlie. You're annoying, evil, Ed. Yeah. So But this is where the movie really kicks into horror, when he, of course, these three characters kind of spill off and walking, to their house, or what the hell they were going? Like just randomly go out somewhere. Like, that was the part I was like, wait a minute, I don't know. That was weird. Like, they were going out to a club and like be safe there. I don't know. So they walked down to this, like, oh my God, so stupid. Horror trope 101. Do not go to the back alley or just creepy streets. Okay, that's easily the target point for you to be dead by these slasher killers or vampires or whatever. And Ed did that. Ed just when he sees Charlie, not Charlie, I'm sorry, Jerry, the villain. Of course he walks to a dark alley and he gets caught corner, and then of course he gets bitten by him. Or first Jerry tells him to be like, take my hand, like literally, like, be part of, the vampire lore or, society. And he gets bitten. And then after that, you see, he goes after, Charlie and, Amy in the nightclub. Great scene. It kind of reminds me of Terminator. Speaking of the music, of course, I love the score here from Brad DeFeo. Love T2's soundtrack. It's one of the best. I think his score here is really great. He does use some synthesizer, the classic 80s score here, and that club scene is so fantastic. Seeing how another trope from the vampires, how they like hypnotize the people, and of course Jerry kind of like controls Amy slowly, by some sort of power he has to control her. And obviously Jerry saves her in the nick of time, and then unfortunately, and then again she gets captured again by Jerry and the two henchmen, of course, now Ed being part of it. And then of course and then of course the first attack that Ed does to Pierre, in his apartment, it's spectacular, very horror like, very intense. When Pierre puts that cross on his face in his apartment, that was really brutal. I thought the effects there was really great. I was kind of just shocked and just so creepy. He looks so creepy with the makeup there, with the teeth and the eyes. Really great vampire makeup here. And then of course, after Amy gets captured, by Jerry and the two other henchmen working with Jerry, he pleads Pierre to join him and help him save Amy. And that's such a great, powerful scene. Him, like, this is what I mean. Roddy McDowell, great actor. Like he's just so shocked about this, this revelation of that like vampires exist. Like first off, he has a wild, like, I don't know, day or two. His show got canceled. He gets this crazy fan telling him to like help him to defeat Jerry as a vampire, and then he gets this help by Amy to do this intervention, to get Charlie out of this like deception that his neighbor is a vampire, and then he discovers that he is a vampire and like he's now in danger, because of what he knows the truth, and then while Charlie is trying to convince him to help him, he starts to cry. You see a little bit of tear in his in the face, and it's like, wow, like so powerful. It's like you never see that a ton in horror movies. And this shows how good Roddy McDowell is as an actor. And I sympathize him. It's like, come on, like what you're seeing. I don't want to go, be the hero, So, but it was great when of course, Charlie, goes over to the house, and then he arrives there, Pierre, and then that's a really good, great scene. See him, be there, be the hero for Charlie, and it's just wrapping up, seeing, of course, Jerry affecting Amy to be the vampire. Really great, sequence. I've never really seen that before in vampires. Seeing the the lover be infected, or sort of. But it was a really cool sequence. I think just again, this is where the movie really kicks in, and the horror aspect is just really spectacular, and it makes the movie really great.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Over to you, Jeff. Same question, sir. Your thoughts on that section, sir?
Yeah, a lot goes down. Like I guess the action department, obviously the friend, that Andres isn't too fond of, gets grabbed up in the dark alley, by the vampire and everything, which is unfortunate. But it kind of adds to the story, when he comes back. All vampired out, which you expected to happen. You know what I mean? Like, like that's what you thought was going to happen, kind of, So it was like, it was nice seeing that, that come together like that. The club scene was good. The music was good. I knew that the vampire dude was going to get Amy. Like seduce her or whatever, that's going to happen. The dancing, the dancing sequence where she was like seeing herself by herself dancing. I didn't really understand what was going on with that. But I don't know. That was interesting. but yeah, the props and like the special effects with the whole staking and like turn into a dog, shit that goes on with Evil Ed or whatever, in vampire form. And I forgot his name, the name of the character, the Peter, the Peter character, that I really enjoyed how that was done. I really loved the different like versions of like the after the actor got staked, and he wasn't in the dog form anymore, and he went into like human dog form. That was really hardcore. I really dug that. I really like the special effects, and very like scary, like very freaky looking shit, for like 1985. Not bad, like in the horror realm. The whole thing with the crucifix, only working if you have faith and all that. I enjoyed that angle. That's pretty much it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Good job. Over to you, Drew. Your thoughts on that sequence?
Well, starting off with the whole alleyway thing, man, oh man, do I love those deep blues that only the 80s for some reason could capture. All that great lighting that I don't know. Like in recent movies, I just never sort of see that same thing. The original Halloween, like some of the Friday 13s, they all did that so well with the dark blue lighting. Also the smoke machines that are always in alleyways for some reason. It's always fun. Just there's steam and smoke everywhere back then. Really enjoy the Evil Ed transformation. Basically because he could just convinces Ed that he wants this. He sort of gaslights him into becoming a vampire. He's like, "Yo, bro, they hate you. You're like a nerd. Here, I'll make you better." Like, okay. It's I'm not quite sure why he decides to go and attack Peter Vincent in his apartment, but either way, this is the catalyst that really sort of creates this is the sort of moment that actually gives him the drive, like I actually am not a fraud. My life is not a lie. I can help these people, even though he ran away initially. So I do like that. And the big fight scene back at the mom's house too, where the transformation scenes, all that stuff is great. The big dance scene in the club, as stated, it sort of reminds me of the whole tech noir scene from Terminator 1 for some reason, even though it's not really thematically the same, but stylistically it's still like, oh, big dance stuff, the 80s all over the place. One thing I don't know if I'm a huge fan of this. This is a callback to all the way back to with Dracula with his like bizarre the vampire's bizarre like auto hypnosis that they can apparently do on anybody they want and basically mind slave them. It's sort of one of those nebulous powers where I'm like, wait, how far can you go with this? Like how I don't know where the line is drawn with that. Like, can you just do that to multiple people? Can you do that to everybody? Can you I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like, if you can do that with her, who obviously hates you, then can you just do it to the main character and stop him in his tracks? I don't know. I'm not really a fan with like that sort of thing. It reminds me of the old. I don't know if anyone's familiar with like the old Mel Brooks movies, the Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Yes.
They're where Leslie Nielsen's coming in and he's like trying to hypnotize the girl, but the maid keeps stepping up instead of the girl, and he's like, "No, not you, you," and then they both step up. "No, not you," and it just keeps going back and forth. That's one of those like, oh yeah, that's probably how it would work if this is a real power, because it would be impossible to control. But I like how everything sort of moves back to the Jerry's house and how they have to like. They all the pieces are now back together, and this is all going to get solved here and now in the finale of this movie.
Excellent. Great job, everyone. You guys are all on point. Great points, everyone, across the board. So I give each person tonight 1 million points apiece. You all have been fantastic tonight, folks.
We're like Gryffindor.
Exactly.
Yes, we're
Exactly.
Hogwarts.
1 million points to the
Man points to Gryffindor. None for Slytherin. None for Hufflepuff. None for all the others. Anyways. All right, guys. Great job. All right, so moving on to basically, pretty much the finale of the film. Like this final act, I feel is just really well done. I really enjoyed it. I mean, this whole movie I really enjoy. I think, I remember watching this on TV back in the 80s and just remember thinking, this is such a great film. Of course, at that time I saw it, edited. And so I missed out on a lot of stuff on it until I actually saw it, unedited. But at the same time, I still absolutely loved it because I absolutely loved, Roddy McDowall as Peter Vincent. I automatically just like felt like he was such a cool character. He kind of made me think and feel, kind of like, Vincent Price, how he was big and Peter Cushing and all those stuff. So I felt an immediate connection to it because I always loved those older classic horror films. And so I felt like this film did a really good job of giving all those classic horror fans that same kind of feeling in a more updated contemporary vampire film. And I thought they did a really good job with that. And I think this ending does that really well as well. So basically, after where we left off, Charlie is locked in a room with Amy, who is slowly transforming into a vampire. Peter frees him before she awakens and says the process can be reversed if they destroy Jerry before dawn. Billy confronts Charlie and Peter and is revealed to be undead. They destroy Billy, who melts into goo and sand. Peter is able to lure the overconfident Jerry in front of a window using a crucifix, which now works due to his renewed faith in his abilities. As the sun rises, Jerry transforms into a bat and attacks Peter and Charlie before fleeing to his coffin in the basement. Charlie and Peter pursue Jerry. The latter breaks open Jerry's coffin and tries to stake him through the heart while Charlie fights off Amy, who has almost completed her transformation. By breaking the blacked-out windows in the basement, Peter and Charlie expose Jerry to the sunlight, destroying him and returning Amy to her human form. A few nights later, Peter returns to his Fright Night TV series and announces a hiatus from vampires, presenting a film about alien invaders instead. Charlie and Amy watch the program as they embrace in bed. Charlie gets up to turn off the TV and glimpses glowing red eyes in Jerry's now vacant house, but dismisses them. As Charlie and Amy resume kissing in bed, the glowing eyes return before Ed laughs and says, "Oh, you're so cool, Brewster." And that's how the film ends. All right, guys. So this climactic ending, the destruction of Jerry, the laughing Ed at the end, they're finally making out in bed. Peter Vincent returns to his Bright Night TV series and changes the subject on the TV series to aliens. We get that climactic, battle between Jerry and Billy. And then, of course, we got the transformation of Amy, which with those great special effects were awesome looking and just hysterically funny. And just really fun ending here. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. Starting with you, Drew, what are your thoughts on the conclusion of Fright Night?
Well, so the film begins with dry humping and it ends with dry humping, which is great. We come full circle. But the whole third act here in Jerry's house is great. The battle with the familiar is fun. We never really quite get to know exactly what he can and can't do. They just end up defeating him, and he like melts into like a puddle monster at one point. And I was like, is he a zombie? What was he? I don't know. The movie doesn't really tell us. He's some sort of reanimated corpse or something. But it's really fun, and the special effects are absolutely great. I think in a movie like this, you want it to be bonkers. The third act, you want like shit like that to be thrown at you, like where it's just like, okay, we're blowing our budget on this stuff. Let's just do what we can. The big final battle with the vampire is great. The bat transformation looks awesome. Another throwback to, I believe, Dracula. Actually, going back to the other kid, he turns into a wolf, right? That's another Dracula reference. The sort of seduction scene in front of the fireplace where Roddy McDowall frees them, and the whole, okay, if we kill the master, we can free her. It's like, okay, more ticking clocks. We need more ticking clocks, which is funny because in this house there are a lot of ticking clocks. Holy shit. And that's actually one of the great details I loved about this is when like dawn is rising, all of the fucking grandfather clocks just start going off simultaneously. And you're like, oh, well, that makes sense. If I was a vampire, I would want to know when I can't fucking get out of my basement, you know. It's a wonderful scene. The scene with Roddy McDowall not having faith initially, I feel like that's a beat that's in a lot of vampire films. I'm trying to remember. Salem's Lot, I think, has a very similar beat where the priest doesn't have enough faith and the crucifix doesn't work. So once again, this movie's not breaking new ground when it comes to vampire stuff, but it is doing everything pretty much by the book, but doing it really well. You know, there's a reason these things are tropes. There's a reason these things are popular. It's because they're all very like well knit into our society as lore for the supernatural. So I think that's a good example of like, you don't, if you have like a good story, you don't really need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to make it good. Like you can redo things that everyone knows and it'll do fine. This was not a new tale even back in the 80s, but it was great at the time. The special effects were wonderful. The little epilogue at the end where he's like transitioning to sci-fi, that's sort of fun. It's like it's the jump from the Hammer films into the alien stuff. That's a great way to end it. I don't know how I feel about Evil Ed still being alive at the end. That's always been weird to me since he literally takes more damage than Jerry does in this movie. He gets killed over and over again. He just doesn't die. So I'm not sure why he's still out there, but hey, whatever. It's a sequel stinger bait, I guess, which was the style at the time. But yeah, it's a wonderful vampire film. Would recommend.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Sir Andres, your thoughts, sir, on the conclusion of the film?
Yeah, I thought the finale was very good, very tight. I mean, it's very thrilling. I mean, it doesn't lose a pace. I think one of the great things about this film, the pacing is really good. Like they done a really good job where there's like no lag in the film. Like there's like everything just moves so quickly, and I think the finale is just so paced well. And you know, it does the great thing about horror finales. It goes, like it really wraps up the craziness of the vampire stuff. Like, I mean, first up, the assistant, Bill, you know, we discovered that he is a vampire. Like the fact that, you know, Peter thought he was a human, so that's why he brings the gun and shoots him right in the head. And then, of course, when Jerry, you know, I don't know, he did like a line where it indicate that, you know, things are not over yet. And then, of course, you see like just a classic thing where you see the villain, you know, rising up, like, you know, in the original Halloween when Michael Myers raised up to the floor, you know, where, you know, Laurie Strode is like, you know, kind of relaxing after, you know, defeating, you know, Michael, is sort of that. And then, of course, you know, Pierre or Charlie stamps, you know, the assistant, and then you see this like classic thing of the vampire like decompose in such a gruesome way, a very gory way, which is so cool. Like I was like, what the hell is that green goo thing? And like he just like decays. Such a great effect and a great makeup, and I think his death is really cool and very like the best deaths I've seen in the film. And you know, and of course, the you know, Ed attacking Pierre, you know, before he comes back to the you know, Jerry's house. Really cool, intense scene. I was surprised he turned into a wolf. Like that was something I haven't seen a lot of other 80s horror films but like that was something that you knew that Dracula did in the text. But in the movies, the classic Dracula films, you never saw that. The only thing you saw was like him turning into a bat. That's really it. That's always been the iconic thing about Dracula. And so I was surprised they did that here, and I mean, he looks real, and of course, before Peter almost gonna get bitten or something like that. Of course, he impales him, which was really brutal. Like it was like very much like American Werewolf in London, where you saw the protagonist there turning into a wolf. Like you see him, the inverse of that, where he's turning back to like a human, and that was like incredible. I'm surprised the Academy Awards didn't nominate this because it looks so like seamless and great. And his little like cry to help for Peter was really like so dark, and like Peter just couldn't do anything to help him, and that little touch of him taking that like reed or crust like the steak from the stairs, taking it off from his body was very pretty neat touch. I don't know why every film they always leave out like open for a sequel, and it made sense that they kind of do that like very ambiguously, either or not he's back. I didn't mind that, but we know that him and Charlie come back for the sequel part 2, but we're not reviewing that, so that was okay. And then of course Amy turning into the vampire, pretty cool. Weird that her hair changes too. That was a weird thing when I was seeing it. I was like, why is she turning into a redhead? Like it was kind of like speaking of this long lost thing, convenient. You see, like also convenient, like it's turning into literally the long lost lover into the redhead. I was like, what? And I agree with you, Knights. The pirate set, like I understand the pirate set of vampires, but when you do show like the werewolf changing and like the controlling of the love interest with the hypnosis, it's like, okay, what powers did they do have, and like just keep it simple, but at least they didn't go too crazy with the power set of these vampires, compared to other ones. It's the 80s. And then of course after the sunlight kind of kicks in, and then of course like when Peter gets to believe in the cross, that is enough to like kind of like weaken Jerry, and then it goes down to the basement, and then that goes really crazy, and then they start breaking the glass, and then that's when he gets defeated. By the way, I like his transformation of that creature bat. That's really cool. I like that design. I like how it's not like the usual bat look. It's like this very demonic bat, so I kind of dug that. Very different from your usual transformation of a bat. And then
definitely not a brute bat.
That is it's kind of weird that they didn't went for that, but whatever. I like the demonic bat. It's good, good creature effect. And then they defeat him, and then I really dug the change of Peter to show to the aliens. That's really cool, because like at the time in the 80s, sci-fi became a big hit thing, because of Star Wars. So it made a lot of sense that okay, the vampires are out, but the aliens are in, because we got Alien at that time, and before Predator became a thing, but like sci-fi became a big thing in the 80s. And I really dug that touch when he say hello to Charlie and did the wink in the TV. That was really touching. I did dug that. Appreciating Charlie to like really appreciate him as an actor and loving his show, and so that I really dug that. So overall, great ending. I love this movie. I definitely think it's one of those great horror 80s films that people need to check out. It's so good. It's well paced and well written. Great acting from everyone, particularly Roddy McDowall.
Excellent. And I think this is better acting.
指先上回すこと以外にほぼデータがなかったんですが、ただもんじゃないですね。結構ね、ルイズ・プリモ選手の情報って意外と少ないですよね。少ないんですよ。 SNS でね、ピザ生地を回しながら戦う姿の動画がですね、めちゃくちゃバズったんですが、そのバズった以上の情報が入ってこないんですよね。今度はピザ。
And they say wrestling's fake.
Right, exactly. We can see right there, pizza making and wrestling mix very well together. But anyways, that excellent job, Andres. All right, Jeff, your thoughts, sir, on the conclusion of the film?
Yeah, the whole it's obvious that that Jerry banged Amy in the previous flight when he bit her and drank from her or whatever, or converted into a vampire. He banged her too. You know what I'm saying? I would have. So I'm assuming he did too. So I just want to make that clear. But
her power isn't intact.
No, not anymore. No, not after the night with Jerry. But the whole her whole transformation is cool. They do a good job making vampiring her up and all that. The whole assault on the house by Charlie and Jerry, is crazy. The guy Billy turning into goo and sand was interesting. You know what I'm saying? That was an interesting looking special effects death, vampire death, or whatever the fuck that was. I loved how he shot his whole gun, the whole gun at him, and the guy was still coming. You know what I mean? That was crazy. I was like, holy shit! What's going on with this dude? What is he on bath salts or something? Something. But yeah. So the basically the whole all the action that goes down in the house is all really solid. The confrontation with the main vampire Jerry character and Peter and Charlie, going, taking them on, and then going into the mutant, winged dog vampire form or whatever there for a while. That was cool. I like that. Charlie gets bitten and everything by it and all that. That was really dope. I really enjoyed that. That was fun to see. It was too easy that they used light to kill Jerry. Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? That was easy. His death was quick. When it actually got down to it, it was a quick death, right? Surprisingly. I really don't know what to make of them bringing back Evil Ed or whatever the fuck his name is at the end. I didn't know what that was about. That was definitely weird. But yeah, a very solid movie. I enjoyed watching it.
Excellent, sir. Awesome. Yeah. I just want to mention there, when Jerry is trying to turn Amy, why the hell was he sucking on her shoulder versus her neck, which is pretty common in other Dracula or vampire films? And I found that kind of odd that he was literally, if you watch the scene after they go in and are trying to figure out what to do with her after he's stuck in there with her, if you look at, it's her shoulder that was bitten and it's got 4 holes, it's 4 teeth going in. And I was like, that's your freaking shoulder. That's not her freaking neck. I'm like, that makes no sense. I'm like, it's supposed to be in the veins right up here because that's where the jugular is. And I'm thinking to myself, is that where you're supposed to bite a person when you're a vampire and want to turn somebody into a vampire? Is it the other way around? You bite them in the jugular so that it kills them versus, turning them into one? So I thought that was kind of funny that the bite marks were on her shoulder. I thought that was kind of funny. But that dress she wore in that scene, that white dress, cracked me up because it just was I don't know. I don't think it was very flattering if they were trying to make sure you could see through it, and stuff like that. So I was kind of thinking to myself, maybe make it a little more see-through. It would have been a little better, but But yeah, I definitely feel that it could have been a little better looking outfit that she was wearing. And the wig that they have her put on, I think, was a lot better than her actual hair in the film. But when she starts transforming and that face cracks me up. It always does. It makes me think of the Ghastly Grinner in that episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Totally makes me think of that every time I see it. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, her vampire scenes were pretty solid.
So yeah, very good job, guys. Very good. All get 3 billion points apiece. You're all winners tonight. Great job, guys. And yeah, that was just such a great film. I absolutely love it. Like I said, it's one of my favorites. And I just think it's a really great, horror classic that definitely everyone should at least watch once and see some really talented people make a really fantastic vampire film that I felt was a little different than majority of vampire films too. Leading up to that time, back even in the 40s and 50s and 60s and so forth, they took a chance and did something I felt a little different than your common Dracula lore. So I think that also made the film really a classic too. So yeah, if you have not seen Fright Night, highly recommend for you guys to check it out there that are watching us. It's a great classic film, really done well. So yeah, great job, everyone. Thank you for being here and talking about the great Fright Night. And I will turn it over to Mr. Jeff to take us out.
All right. Drew, you want to talk about your gaming that you do over at Nights of Nostalgia?
Yeah, on YouTube, I probably stream various games and stuff on about 3 to 4 week basis. I don't really stick with an actual schedule or not. You also find a few videos of me and my one buddy making shorts and clips of us doing watch parties and stuff on various things. Most notably, the most recent thing was like the Acolyte that came out a while ago. But normally, I'm just into the gaming spiel. Recently did Cuphead, Final Fantasy, some Darkest Dungeon. I'm going to be doing some Castlevania later in the week. So, yeah, if you're into some gaming and nerd talk, absolutely. Come check it out when I'm live. Usually 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 10 or so.
And you got to extend an invitation over here, Drew, and invite one of us over on something whenever you decide to cover something again on Nights of Nostalgia, like the Acolyte kind of deal. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Let us know, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing's on the radar right now, but I'm sure at some point.
All right, Andre's the pop culture guy.
Hello, everyone. Well, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us for this awesome Friday night movie. It was really fun. Nights, it was great to see you, buddy.
Absolutely.
It was a fun night. So yesterday, I just recently posted in the Mouth of Madness movie tribute because yesterday was John Carpenter's birthday. So great filmmaker, love his films. I mean, if everyone loves The Thing, that's the person who made it. So check out this Sunday. It's coming up. My first 2025 live streaming review, of course, is on this movie, In the Mouth of Madness, the 1994 film starring Sam Neill. Please check it out. Hopefully me, Cyber, and Jeff will be there to review the film. It'll be 9:40 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, January 19, 2025. And I do post some shorts on movie clips and all that. Check that out as well. Yeah, right now I'm working on something very special for a very particular funny comedian actor whose birthday is today, of course, Jim Carrey. So check that out for tomorrow. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us tonight on this great movie review on Friday night.
Okay. Cyber.
All right, guys. So if you enjoyed me moderating tonight or enjoyed me on the panel here over the MCU'S Leading Edge, if you want to check out my solo content, you'll find me under Cyberneticshark on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, Patreon, pretty much anywhere there's a social media platform. And as you can see there, my most recent video is there, a trailer reaction of the upcoming dark comedy, Death of a Unicorn, which is going to have Jenna Ortega, Paul Rudd, Richard E. Grant, Tia Leone, Will Poulter in it, and absolutely looks freaking fantastic. Can't wait for that to come out this the spring. That looks absolutely cool. You can see there I got my Sonic 3 review up for you guys too. If you haven't checked that out, give it a whirl. Just went and saw the Wolf Man today. Did a mini short of that earlier, so definitely check that out if you like to. We'll have a full review of that film up eventually. I also did a mini short of a film called Getaway, which is a Shudder exclusive, starring the awesome Nick Frost. If you like Nick Frost, who usually does things with Simon Pegg, they did, of course, Shaun of the Dead, World's End, Hot Fuzz together. They were in Paul together. This is a really great horror film. It's a runaway hit on Shudder. It was just really interesting and fun, and just something different. So check that out if you haven't seen it. And be having more shirts up for you guys soon, eventually, of some more stuff and more trailer reactions and some best of and worst of videos will be coming up soon too for you guys. Beginning of this year here. Hopefully I'll have at least one of them up before the end of January, and definitely be having another one by February at least. And just keep on trekking, keep on subscribing, keep on watching us, me and Mr. Andres and the MCU's Bleeding Edge. Definitely check out Drew on the Nights of Nostalgia as well. We appreciate all the viewers we had tonight. Thank you very much. And just keep on enjoying us, and we appreciate you guys. You guys rock.
There you go. We'll be back together again on Monday for What If, the last of What If. Finito on What If as of Monday. So we'll see you then, folks. God bless everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.